Here's something nobody tells you. You don't need to be rich to build multiple income streams. In fact, being rich might actually make you lazy about it. But the real problem isn't that you're not rich enough. The real problem is that most people are waiting. They're waiting to feel ready. They're waiting to have enough money saved up. They're waiting for the perfect moment that never comes. And while they're waiting, nothing happens. This video is different. I'm not going to tell you to start 5 businesses at once or to quit your job and bet everything on some idea. That's not how this works. What I'm going to show you is a realistic, step-by-step approach to building income streams that actually works. And you can start today even if you have almost nothing. The key isn't the money you have, it's the logic of how you build it, one layer at a time. Before we go further, we need to clear up what multiple income streams actually means, because most people get this wrong from the start. It does not mean you need to have 5 different businesses running at the same time. It doesn't mean you need to be some kind of superhuman entrepreneur juggling multiple ventures while working a full-time job. That's not realistic, and it's not what we're talking about. Multiple income streams means adding income slowly over time. It means having more than one source of money coming in. That's it. It could be simple. It could be your job plus some freelance work on the weekends. That's 2 income streams. It could be your job plus some money you make from a skill you're teaching people online. That's 2 income streams. It could be your job, plus some money from a small online business, plus some money from investments you made years ago. That's 3 income streams. The word multiple doesn't mean you need 5 or 10. It just means more than one. And you don't build all of them at once. You build them gradually, over time, as each one stabilizes and gives you the resources to add the next one. Think about it this way. Most people have one income stream their entire life, their job. That job pays for everything, and there's nothing else. Multiple income streams just means you've spread your risk and your income across more than one place. You're not dependent on a single job or a single source of money. That's the entire point. This is the most important section of this entire video, so pay close attention. The order in which you build income streams matters a lot. You can't just start at any random place and expect it to work. There's a logical progression. And understanding this progression is what separates people who actually build multiple income streams from people who try and fail. Here's the order. Step 1 is your primary income. This is your job, your main work, the thing that pays most of your bills right now. You need this to stay stable. You're not quitting your job to build another income. You're building from a position of stability. This is crucial. Your primary income is the foundation everything else is built on. Step 2 is skill-based income. This is freelance work, service work, selling a skill you already have. This could be graphic design, writing, coaching, consulting, virtual assistants, anything where you're trading time for money but you're doing it outside your job. Why is this step 2? Because it requires almost no capital. You already have the knowledge and the skill. You just need to start offering it. This is where most people start their second income. And it's the right place to start because it proves you can make money doing something other than your main job. It builds confidence. It also gives you real money to invest in the next steps. Step 3 is scalable income. This is where you start building things that don't require you to trade 1 hour of your time for 1 unit of money. This could be content creation, digital products, a small business, online courses, anything that can reach many people without requiring proportionally more of your time. Why can't you start here? Because scalable income is harder to build. It requires more knowledge, more experience, and often more capital to get started. You build skill-based income first because that gives you the money and the confidence to then invest in something more scalable. Step 4 is long-term income. This is investments, ownership, passive streams that are genuinely hands-off once they're set up. This could be real estate, stock investments, royalties, anything that generates money without active work from you. Why is this last? Because this requires capital to start with. You need money to invest. Where does that money come from? From your primary income and from the money you made from your skill-based income and your scalable income. Each stage funds the next stage. Here's what's critical. You don't need to have all 4 at once. Most people never get to step 4, and that's okay. Having primary income plus 1 or 2 other streams is already multiple income streams. The point is that when you understand this progression, you understand why most people fail. They try to jump to step 3 or step 4 without doing steps 1 and 2. They want to build passive income without first understanding how to actively build income. It doesn't work that way. The person who becomes wealthy doesn't start with a lot of money and invest it. They start with a job, build some skill-based income, use that money to invest in something scalable, and eventually build long-term wealth. That's the order. That's the system. And it works because each stage prepares you for the next stage. Now let me clear away all the mental obstacles that are probably running through your head right now, because these obstacles are what stop people. You don't need to be rich. This is obvious after everything we've discussed, but it's worth saying directly. You don't need a lot of money to start. You might need a little bit, maybe a few $100s, maybe less, but you don't need to be wealthy. You don't need to be financially secure in a way that most people think you need to be. Your primary income is covering your bills. That's enough. You don't need perfect ideas. This is a big one. Most people wait for the perfect idea before they start. They think the idea has to be original, unique, something nobody's ever done before. But that's not how it works. You don't need a perfect idea. You need a real idea that solves a real problem for someone. There are millions of people who need help with things you already know. You don't need to invent something new. You just need to start helping. You don't need to quit your job. This is important because it removes a lot of pressure. You're not betting your life savings and your family's security on whether your new income stream works. You're building it slowly while your job takes care of your survival. This is actually an advantage, not a disadvantage. Having a job while you build something new means you have time to think, to learn, to experiment without feeling desperate. Desperation makes you make bad decisions. Stability allows you to be strategic. You don't need fast results. This is where a lot of people get discouraged. They start a side income, and after 3 months, they're making $20 a month, so they quit. They compare themselves to people who've been building their income for 10 years and they feel like they're failing. But you're not failing. You're in month 3 of a process that takes years. The timeline people imagine is way too short. If you're realistic about time, you're way ahead of everyone else. All of these things you think you need are actually distractions. They're mental barriers that don't exist. Remove them from your thinking right now and suddenly the path becomes much clearer. Here's something that rich people understand that poor people often don't. Time compounds just like money does. Most people think that building multiple income streams is something that requires money up front. You save money, you invest money, and then money makes more money. But that's only one path. The other path is using time to build assets that eventually make money. Think about someone who starts creating content online. In month 1, they make $0. Maybe nobody even watches their content. In month 3, they're making a few dollars from ads or from people buying things they recommend. In month 6, they're making $30 a month. In month 12, they're making $100 a month. In year 2, they're making $1,000 a month. In year 5, they're making $5,000 a month. None of this required them to be rich. It required them to show up consistently for 5 years. This is the power of compounding time. Early on, the results are almost invisible. You're working, putting in effort, and almost nothing is happening financially. But you're building something. You're building skills. You're building an audience. You're building experience. You're building a body of work. All of this is compounding silently in the background. Rich people understand this because they have time to wait. They don't need the money from their investments tomorrow. They can let it compound for decades. Poor people often don't have this luxury, but what they do have is that they're young, or they have energy, or they have skills that can be developed. That's their advantage. Use time, not money. The person who gets rich is usually not the person who had the most money at the beginning. The person who gets rich is the person who played the long game. They started early, they stayed consistent, and they let time work for them. Rich people start big, but wealthy people start early. And starting early is something you can do right now, no matter how much money you have. Let me summarize what we've covered because this is important. Multiple income streams are not discovered. They're built. Nobody wakes up one day with 5 different sources of income. They start with one, they add another, and then another. They follow the order we talked about. They understand their starting point isn't their ending point. And most importantly, they start even though they don't feel ready, they don't have a perfect idea, and they're not sure it's going to work. The reason most people never build multiple income streams is not because they don't have money. It's because they're waiting. They're waiting to feel ready, to have more money, to have the perfect idea, to have more time, to find the magic moment. But that moment never comes. The moment is now. You have a job, presumably. That's your primary income. That's your foundation. Everything else is built on top of that. From there, the next step is to find a skill you have that other people will pay for. That's step 2. Sell that skill, make some money, use that money to build something slightly more scalable. That's the path. The whole point of this video is to show you that you don't need to be rich to start. You need to be realistic about the timeline, clear about the order, and willing to start even though you're not ready, because nobody's ever ready. So here's my question for you, and I want you to answer it in the comments. If you had to start with one income stream today, what would it be? What skill do you have that someone would pay for? What problem could you solve for someone? Not someday, but if you had to do it today, what would it be? Leave that in the comments. Let's build a community of people actually doing this instead of just thinking about doing it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.